Thank you for joining us on the Dedication to Excellence podcast journey. We are at episode 30 and we're just getting started. We are excited to bring this episode to you. Rondi Lambeth, host of the School of Wealth podcast. Rondi Lambeth has taken over the credit space and the finance space. The way he's evolving his company now is unheard of, and it's just incredible. You guys are going to want to make sure that you have a notepad ready, because the actionable tactical steps inside of here, what you can apply into your business or your personal tax, is going to be game changing. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the episode. But before we do, make sure to drop down below and leave a written review. This is going to help us rank higher and get in front of the masses, bringing Rondi's incredible, insightful information, game-changing information, as well as our other guests in front of those that need it. Thanks so much. Let's get started.
We are live with another episode of the Dedication to Excellence podcast. I am your host, Eugene Tamampos, alongside my co-host, my brother, Dustin Reyna. What is good with you, sir?
Good, man. It's starting to snow out here in Boise, so I'm excited for the upcoming winter season. But
yes.
Yeah, let's get on it. Yeah, Rondi's a fellow Idahoan, so this is going to be a fun episode. Let's do it.
Is that the official title, Idahoan?
Yeah,
Idaho. I like that. Yeah, it is that time of year, though, for snow. Oh, so that means baby Keisha's going to see her first snow, huh?
Yep.
Well, send me some cute pictures. She's adorable. If you haven't seen Dustin's baby, she's the most adorable thing on the planet. So we got to figure out a way to incorporate that into our marketing strategy. But anyway, for those of you listening for the first time, better late than never, I guess. The purpose of this show is to not just inspire and motivate, but to give you real actionable steps and operational strategies from high achievers who have done the things we'll be discussing with them. Because once you're excited, folks, guess what? You actually got to go out there and do some shit. So today's episode is for anyone looking to get their money right. Now, money isn't everything, but like a mentor taught me, it does rank up there with oxygen. So it is kind of important, but it's not just about making money. It's about building real wealth. And today's guest is an absolute expert at that, as well as on all things finance related, from credit building to tax strategies, investing for retirement, real estate investing. He's also the host of the School of Wealth podcast, so be sure to check that out. His work has helped countless of people level up their money game. Rondi Lambeth, my brother, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course, my man. So we're definitely excited to dive into your story, get to know you, and learn about everything that you've executed on to become very successful financially and taught others. But before we get to that, please tell us about the path that led you to what you're doing now in the world of finance.
Yeah, I grew up extremely poor, about 45 minutes away from where I live today, in a shack, literally a shack. It was a shed that someone didn't want. They gave it to my parents. They stuck it on a piece of property, had no running water, no electricity, and we got our food. We were so poor, we got our food out of a dumpster at the M&W grocery store in Parma, Idaho. Every Wednesday after school, we'd go over there, dig around in the dumpster, get our food. So I grew up really poor, and I'm the oldest of 11 siblings. You could take that shack and put it inside the studio that I'm sitting in right now. Is how small it was. The bedroom that the 11 of us shared was smaller than my master bedroom closet. So I grew up knowing what real poor was like. And what's crazy about it was my stepdad was extremely wealthy. He just was mentally ill and wanted to live off the grid. And He didn't want government involved in his life. And so I left home at 15. He was very abusive. He'd literally beat us and torture us. And so at 15, I had enough. And I moved out. And I hitchhiked all the way up to where I was born. Ended up in John Day, Oregon, in and out of foster care, living on the street for a little while. And then at 16, I got a job at a local funeral home. And at 16 years old, I learned how to embalm a body, how to do autopsies, how to direct a funeral home, how to cremate bodies. And from 16 to 21 years old, I was an embalmer. All through high school, I was a mortician. But I learned something very valuable, and that was how money really works. And I learned that it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And so at 16 years old, I started learning about taxes and credit and investing and compound interest and rule of 72. And I was being mentored by Wally Williams, who was the owner. And so during that day when I was there working, and in the evenings when we're embalming bodies, we were talking about taxes and investing in real estate. And I bought my first house when I was 18 years old. Now, granted, it was I think it was 45-foot long single wide trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to school and people are like, "Oh, I heard you lived in the trailer. You got a house. You think you're this big real estate investor because now you got real estate, but it's a trailer." And I said, "And you live with your mom and I live on my own." So what's up with that? And I got a brand new truck, right? And so that's my journey into entrepreneurship and real estate. Then I become a fireman.
If I may, were you just naturally curious at 16 to learn this from your mentor, or did you just, as sheer luck would have it, he put these lessons in front of you without even asking? Like, how did that conversation even start? Because most 16-year-olds aren't asking these sort of questions.
Yeah, I grew up so poor, I wanted money. I wanted to know it. So I was extremely curious. I was reading books already on taxes and money and real estate. Robert Kiyosaki wasn't even in the picture then. This was 1986. So when I left home at 15, I was a freak at 15, 16 years old. So much so that my senior year, Chris Labhart was the basketball coach and the economics teacher. And he had a punk for a son, a real piece of shit that would make fun of me because I was poor. So one day I beat the shit out of him.
Right? As you should.
As I should. Back then you could actually settle your stuff in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I beat the shit out of his son. So he never liked me. And my senior year, I aced economics. I aced investing in real estate. It was like a semester long of stock market, options, funds, index, real estate. And I aced it because what he didn't know is I was doing that at night in real life. And so I aced it. He said I cheated, pulled me up front of the whole class, said, "You're a liar, you're a cheater, and you got a D." And I aced the class. So now when I fly back there, because he still lives there, I got my own plane. So I'll fly up there to go fishing on the weekends. I literally circle his house, get on the radio, and I'll be like, "Hey, Labhart, look up here. Who's the cheater and the liar now?" And I'm flying over his little shack in in John Day, Oregon. And then I land my plane. Now, I know that's probably childish, but it makes me feel good.
We're all praying for forgiveness here, right?
So at 21 years old, I decided I want to be a fireman. I moved to Denver, Colorado, was a garbage man until I could get through the fire academy, get qualified. I eventually become a fireman. And then that's really when I started my entrepreneur journey, because I only worked 8 days a month as a fireman. And I've always been a hustler. So that gave me 22 days a month to hustle. And I had the finances to take care of my family, because at 21 years old, I had 3 kids because I got started early in everything. And so I just started growing. I started learning about business and economics. And fast forward 2010, I retired. 2007, I started a credit repair company. I had a real estate company in there as well. But something happened to me in 2006. I was at the fire station. I got a phone call from my mom, about 30 of them. And when you're on duty at the fire department, you never call your family, because if you get in the habit of calling your family and you never do, they think something's wrong. So basically, you get to the fire station, you lock up your phone. And so after I got off duty the next morning, because they're 24-hour shifts, I turn on my phone and there's 30 plus voicemails from my mom. And essentially my little brother, Zeke, who was also a firefighter, wanted to be like his big brother. I was in my 30s, late 30s. He's 22 years old at that time. Killed himself. And he killed himself over a little bit of collections, a little bit of credit card debt, and a bad relationship due to some money problems. 70% of all marriages end, and the reason they say that it ends is because of credit and money, financial problems. And that hurt a lot, because here I am I'm on the busiest rescue in Denver. We save 12 to 15 lives a day, numerous awards, firefighter of the year, like a super stud, right? I'm on the combat team, the SWAT team with the police department. And yet I don't even know what's going on with my little brother's life. At 22, he shoots himself because of less money that he owed than I have in my pocket. And so I started a financial services in 2007, which is Fortress. And it's America's first 100% paid on results credit repair company. And since then, we have evolved over the last 13 years into a full financial services company where we help people with their credit, their debt, their taxes. We set up tax-free retirement accounts for people. We help them with their 401ks, their IRAs, their stocks, bonds, mutual funds, everything that has to do with money. We can help them. I currently have 2,200 doors with apartment complexes. So literally everything and anything that has to do with money, my company now can help clients. And outside of the credit side, we don't charge anything for our services. On the credit side, we charge a very small fee. It's $125 per account that we delete from their credit report after we get it deleted. So if we don't delete anything, they don't pay us anything at all. I work just like a real estate agent. I'm paid on performance. Nice. If I perform and I get that bankruptcy deleted or that foreclosure or collection or repo, then I charge you $125. If I get nothing deleted, you don't pay anything at all. Nice. So that's my story.
Beautiful. Let's unpack it, get to the nitty-gritty now, because you help a lot of people with a lot of different things. So we can take this conversation in so many directions. I guess the first question I'd have for you then is, in your experience, what is the biggest, because I think we can all agree that most people just don't understand money. We're not taught it growing up. It's kind of a taboo subject. It has this negative connotation, talking about money at the dinner table. So in your experience, what is the biggest issue people have with money? I know that's kind of a wide reaching question, but if you could just maybe riff on that for a little bit. Like, what do you see?
They don't understand the purpose of money. The biggest problem is people think you get money so you can buy shit. They think that you get a raise so you can buy more shit. That's what they think. That's not the purpose of money. What you should be doing with money is putting it to work for you. You bring in dollar bills and you send it out into the world to bring you back more dollar bills, to go out and get slaves and bring them back so you can build an empire. That's the purpose of it. And I think the reason that people don't understand money is because it's taboo to talk about it. The government definitely doesn't want us to understand money. Wall Street doesn't want us to understand money. The banks don't want us to. And the reason our families don't talk about it, I believe, is because they're ashamed of themselves. You know, when you have kids and you tell your kids, you can be somebody someday. You could do anything you want. If you want to be president, you can be president. If you want to be a pilot or a doctor or attorney, you can do it. I believe in you. You can do anything you want. And yet, you know it's not true. And you know they probably won't because you never did it. You settled. You didn't push yourself. And so I think the reason people don't talk about money is they are ashamed of where they're at in life and they just want to ignore the problem.
And what would you say that biggest problem is with the average family you talk to that you have to coach them through? Like, what is that first hurdle that you help them overcome on that path to getting their money situation right?
They don't even want to address the problem, which is overspending. See, Americans do not have a lack of money problem. When people talk about the 1%ers and back in like 2016, 2012, there was a big thing with that, the 1%ers and anti-banks and all that stuff. What they don't realize is we're all 1%ers. If you're born in the United States, you're 1%er of the world population. Right. I have a home in Dominican Republic. The average person in Dominican Republic makes $300 a month. Okay. And they live extremely well and they're extremely happy, which is why I love Dominicans, because they're all happy and they just like life. They enjoy life, which is why I have a home there. But I think the problem is people don't want to sit down and look at their finances. I got an email this morning and she found me on Instagram too. And it was, I have money problems. And so I break it down and say, how much money do you owe? What kind of debt? What's the interest rate? What's the minimum payment? How much money do you make? Do you have a budget? Do you keep track of how much money you spend? Doesn't have a budget, doesn't keep track of how much money she spends, doesn't know how much money she makes, and doesn't know the interest rate, doesn't know the monthly payments, just knows it's around 69,000. It's probably closer to 80 because people are usually 20% off. So the problem is they don't keep track of anything. They don't inspect it. And they're just making the payments and not really paying attention because they don't want to address the problem.
Sure.
The problem is overspending. They don't want to address it. 76% of Americans that have credit cards do not pay off the balance in full every month, which means they go out to eat, they go to Taco Bell, Burger King, McDonald's. They are financing that Big Mac for the next 22 years on that credit card and paying up to 29% interest on the Big Mac. So your $4 Big Mac costs you $400 or $500 if you don't pay off your credit card in full every month. And again, 76% of Americans do not pay off their credit card in full. So the problem is they don't address the problem.
So I'm guessing they're not paying their credit card in full because they don't have the money to, because they overspend. So I think a good first step, based on what you just said there, for most people is, I'd imagine a lot of people don't have a budget. So is that a good, solid first thing to address for the average person you speak with?
No, I don't like the word budget. I use it because people know what it is. I like to call it a financial plan. I think the first thing generally that I want people to do when I sit down with them is, how much money do you make? How much do you truly make? Number one. Number two, we got to eliminate your taxes. Taxes are our largest expense in life. Let's do something about wiping out your taxes, or at least reducing your taxes.
What are some of those common strategies that you coach people through when it comes to reducing your tax burden?
Yeah, the number one strategy is start a home-based business. That's the number one strategy. Start a home-based business. And one of the things I love about what I do is I'm always looking for revenue sharing partners, and we can set them up for a couple $100, and now they got their home-based business. The other thing with that is I look at their tax returns, and most Americans that are having financial problems will get a tax refund. In fact, 51% of Americans do not pay taxes. 49. So all the taxes are collected by the 49% of us. So what that means, most Americans get a tax refund. And so I'll sit down with them and say, look, let's stop giving the government your $4,000 or $5,000 a year interest-free. Let's change your W-4 from married and 2 dependents to married and 10 dependents, or married and 6 dependents. And we figure out the math. So that way there is no refund. They don't, when they do their taxes, it's break even.
Yeah.
Which means they're, on average, their paycheck will go up by $400 a month. The average American, because the average American gets, with family of 2, or married couple with 2 kids, family of 4, will get about $5,000 refund every year, which is $400 a month essentially on their paycheck. So they adjust their W-4, paycheck goes up by $400, but we immediately take that out of their paycheck and we apply that to the lowest balance bill, and we start paying off their credit card. So they never see the money, which means they can never spend it. And we start hammering away on that debt.
Love it.
Then we come up with a financial plan on where they're going to spend their money. And I have them track where they're spending it. I sat down with this guy, and his name's Robert, lives on the East Coast, 30-year veteran at a prison. He was spending $1,600 a month on vending machines.
Jesus. You might as well buy a vending machine.
Yeah. So first we look at, see how much money they make. Then we adjust their W-4. Then we take that extra money, we put it towards their debt. And then we figure out where you're spending your money. So we literally took $1,600 out. And in a year, he retired from a job that he hated. He started one of the most successful gun stores on the East Coast. And now he's crushing it, doing what he loves, which is making really cool guns for professionals, primarily SWAT and police. And all by sitting down, figuring out he was blowing $1,600 a month on vending machines, because that allowed us to pay off the credit cards, which allowed him to retire from his job, which allowed him to start his business.
Nice. And I want to talk through that transition of getting your personal finances straight and then using that to build a foundation for your credit that you can leverage into business purposes. But I just want to highlight a point you made, because I had a conversation not too long ago with a friend of mine, and we were talking about taxes. Granted, I'm not on your level of expertise, but my mom is a enrolled agent with the IRS. So I have grown up learning about taxes enough to be dangerous, enough to be able to tell people, yes, start a home-based business. It's a good thing to have write-offs. And most people, don't write anything off. But when I was telling him about taxes, and I forgot how the subject came up, but he was telling me how, you want to have a good tax person so you can get a bigger refund check every year. I'm like, so let me explain to you what's really happening here, brother. If the government's giving you a refund, that just means they've been holding your money, like to your point, interest free for a certain amount of time. That money would have been better served in your pocket doing absolutely anything else productive, because if you're getting a bigger refund check, the perception is that's a cool thing, but in reality, you've just been overpaying in taxes this whole time. So just that little mental shift had him, like, oh wow, the light bulb came on, and he now has a different view of taxes. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think a lot of people who, are in the E quadrant, if you will, the employee mindset, even realize that. They just think, oh, I'm getting a big check every year and I can use it to go, buy some stupid shit, which I can't knock those people, because that was definitely me in the past, but now I'm a little bit more educated. So it sounds like your strategy then is to help people manage their cash flow personally, making sure they're making smarter decisions with where they're spending their money and the tax implications. And then you want to help them build their credit, pay off the bills and whatnot. So maybe we can enter the credit side of this conversation now, and let's talk some best practices when it comes to building your credit and why building your credit is important.
Yeah. Credit is the most important thing in your life financially. It dictates how much money you pay for food, gas, electricity, cell phone, rent, insurance. Everybody thinks it's just interest. Well, I'm debt free. I don't care about my credit, because they listen to Dave Ramsey, who makes the majority of his money by getting people to go into debt. He's anti-debt,
story.
but he makes the majority of his money through Churchill Mortgage and his real estate partners and the insurance companies. And they pull your credit, all three of those, right? And so it's very hypocritical. But here's the deal. If you're cool with being lazy, uneducated, and lower to poor middle class, listen to Dave Ramsey. If you want to be upper middle class, pay less taxes, have a better life, listen to me. Okay. And I personally know him. He tried to get my radio show. I had a radio show for 7 years, 5:30 drive time in all through California. And he tried getting it for 7 years. He never got it. But anyway, credit score is the most important thing. And I'll prove this to you on the gas, because people are like, wait a minute. My credit score has nothing to do with how much I pay for gas. All right, let's check this out. What's gas in San Francisco? $4 a gallon? $5 a gallon?
Bro.
All right, let's just call it $4 a gallon.
Call it 4, yeah.
Call it 4. If you go in and you pay with a debit card, how much does that gas cost you per gallon?
$4 a gallon.
If you pay cash, how much does that gas cost you?
$4 a gallon.
What if you pay with American Express Platinum card? How much does it cost you?
$4 a gallon financed over 22 years?
Nope. $3.80, because you get 5% cash back at gas stations.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if you pay cash, check, or debit card, it's $4 a gallon. If I buy the gas, it's $3.80 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 20 cents. It's not how much money you make that matters. It's how much money you keep. Okay. That's what I mean by your credit score will dictate how much you pay for gas, groceries, electricity, rent, car insurance, and interest. Okay. Because in order to get the American Express Platinum or the Chase Freedom or the Barclays card or any of these cards that give you cash back or travel rewards, you got to have great credit. You got bad credit, you're not getting the card, you're stuck with the debit card. So credit's very, very important. on top of that, when you have great credit and you have access to money, you have access to deals other people aren't. I get deals all the time for businesses, great businesses, cars. I get access to real estate deals that other people couldn't get to because they can't pull the trigger and get cash out of their credit. The other thing that good credit allows you to do is Dave will tell you need to have 6 to 12 months of a rainy day fund. Right? And you've heard that. And or 3 to 6 months of emergency funds, or a year to 2, whatever it is. I don't believe in that. I don't coach my clients to have a year's worth of savings, a year's worth of expenses. I think you only need 1 to 3 months of expenses, an emergency fund, as long as you have a credit card that's got 3 to 6 months worth of expenses on it. Because if you lose your job and you got a $30,000 credit line, you can access the credit card to pay your bills over the next couple months until you get a new job. This way, you don't have 15 to 20 grand sitting in a bank account getting 0.01% interest, which would take 72,000 years to double in a savings account. Instead, you have it in one of the accounts that I set up for people all the time, and you were getting 5 to 10% compound interest a year. That you have access to that money if you ever needed it, but because you have the credit to take care of the emergency, the car breaking down, you now can have less in the savings account and more in your cash accumulation account, growing at 10% compounding every year. And now it can grow faster.
Love it. You're sending your money out into the world to make those friends to come back with.
Exactly.
So what are some tips you have for people looking to improve their credit?
All right, number one. That's a great question. Thank you for that. And you know what? I got to tell you something right now. This is an incredible interview. I'm really enjoying this because I didn't send you any of these questions. And I've never listened to your podcast. And so I got to tell you right now, this is one of the best interviews I've ever had, because I normally have to send you a bunch of questions and it's kind of canned, and you're coming up with all this stuff on your own. So I appreciate that.
These are all asking for a friend, that's why.
Yeah. So,
but thank you, brother. I received that.
All right. The number one thing you can do, and I talk about this constantly on social media, the number one thing you can do is you must have 3 credit cards. No exceptions. You have to have 3 credit cards, because the FICO algorithm is heavily weighted towards credit cards. It's the most important thing on your credit cards, how you use them, how long they've been open, what's the credit limit, what is the balance due, how often do you pay them, how many do you have, how many of them have a balance on it. It is the absolute most important thing to your credit. I've taken people with a 400 credit score to an 800 credit score in 45 days by simply putting them on 3 of my credit cards. 400 points. 45 days.
Are you talking about adding them as an authorized user?
Yep. I add them as an authorized user. 45 days later, 400-point increase.
Wow.
Then they had a credit score high enough that they could get their own credit cards. Once got their own credit cards, I took them off of my accounts. Okay. And I do this occasionally for primarily celebrities and athletes that have poor money managers, and they need me to fix it so they can go get their Huracan or their Ferrari, whatever.
I mean, I'm neither, but I'm a podcast host. I don't know if that that qualifies.
Yeah.
So
I only have so many people I can add to the card.
Right.
I actually added this this celebrity. I can't say his name, but he's got 5 million followers on Instagram. So, and that's a lot of people. So I put him on my credit card. And at the time I was married, Capital One called and said, "Hey, we noticed that you just put," I'll make up a name.
Kanye
We
West.
noticed you just put Conway West on your credit card. Do you do that? And she's like, "Who?" "Yeah, Conway West." "No, I don't know who that is." Closed all my accounts.
Wow.
Took 2 million points from me.
Jeez.
I'm like, bitch, you know better than this. She's like, "I don't know who that is." I'm like, "You just cost us 2 million points," and they closed all of our accounts. It's because he was such a well-known person, celebrity. They're like, Why is he on Rondi Lambeth's credit card? That doesn't make any sense at all. So I got to be careful with who I add on it. But authorized users, great. And here's how authorized users work. Let's say you decide you're going to come out here to Idaho and we're going to go drive around in the mountains.
Say less, bro. I'll be up there this weekend.
Yeah. Does your driving record impact how much money I pay in car insurance on my brand new Jeep that I forgot?
Does my driving record impact your Jeep? No.
Yep. Why not?
Because it's your Jeep. It's not mine.
Are you responsible for the maintenance on my Jeep?
I am not, thankfully.
No, because you're just along for the ride.
Exactly.
You're an authorized user in my Jeep. So when I add you to my credit card, your bad credit, I don't know if you have bad credit. I'm just saying, if I added you on and you're Conway West and you got a 400 credit score, that doesn't affect my credit score whatsoever because you're an authorized user along for the ride.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what you do in your life, doesn't affect me whatsoever. And so I say it that way. So if you're listening to this and you do have poor credit, not necessarily bad credit, but a poor credit score due to no credit cards or overutilized credit cards, and I'll get into what that means, and you ask a friend to add you as an authorized user, the first thing they're going to ask is, will it affect me? No. It's like me getting in the car with you and driving down the road. Your driving record has no impact on me at all. Now, with that being said, if I wreck my Jeep, does it impact you? If you're in the Jeep with me?
Financially, no, but I mean,
Correct.
you could mess my spine up.
Yep. So if I wreck my credit card, I max it out, I miss a payment, temporarily it could impact your score, but legally they're not allowed to report negative information on your credit. But if I max out my credit card and you're on it, that could have a temporary impact on your scores. So if you ask someone to add you as an authorized user, you want to make sure the credit card's at least 4 years old. They're using it, but they're never going over 10% of the limit. So they're utilizing only 10% of the credit.
So does it always, you said it temporarily affects you and it's always just going to be temporary? Is there ever a situation where it sticks with you?
No. The temporary, because you can always just call them up and remove yourself from the authorized user account and it goes away. Okay.
So but going away, does the credit history also go away with that as well?
Most likely.
Got it. Okay.
It could. If you ask them to, it will. If you don't ask them to, it probably will not. So not a lot of times. I've had people that have done this and then the person missed a late payment. We'll dispute it and they just delete the whole thing from the credit report because you're an authorized user. They don't want to get sued because it's illegal for them to report late payments on an authorized user account's credit report. Okay.
Got it.
So utilization rates. So number one, you got to have 3 credit cards at all times. If you have such bad credit that you can't get a credit card and or you don't have any friends for authorized users, you can go to my website, rondilambeth.com. There's 5 credit cards on there that don't even check your credit. Guaranteed they'll send you a credit card.
Really?
Some of them are secured credit cards. FICO doesn't care whether it's secured or unsecured. Secured means you send them a couple $100. They put it in a savings account. They send you a credit card with a $200 limit.
Yep.
When you close it, they send you back your $200. They keep the interest.
Yep.
If you don't pay, you max out the $200 credit card and you don't pay it off, they keep the $200 and they send you the collections on the other part. Okay. That's a secured money as
collateral.
Yeah, it's just collateral. That's all it is. Like getting a car loan, they keep the title. And those are great. FICO doesn't care if they're secured. They don't care. It doesn't even come into the algorithm. And I keep talking about FICO. FICO is the #1 provider of credit scores. They provide billions of credit scores a year. They're the trusted credit score. Anything you see online with exception to a FICO credit score is what we refer to as a FACO credit score. And it doesn't matter. Nobody uses them. I am a FICO certified credit professional. There's less than 100 of us in the United States.
Wow.
So they offered this program for a little bit and then they canceled it. And in 2007, I was one of the only people that ever got this designation and got trained by FICO on how to create an algorithm and how to create scorecards to predict. And speaking of predicting, here's what the credit score is. It is a prediction of you paying your bills on time over the next 2 years. That's all they do, is they predict the future. And they get paid billions and billions of dollars from banks and credit bureaus to predict the future, and they're 98% accurate.
So you were actually in on the developing of these algorithms for FICO. Is that what I heard?
No, I know how the algorithms were created, and I know how to create a scorecard to create a credit score.
Gotcha.
I was not part of FICO. I was trained by FICO to understand how they work. Like, I literally, if you sent me a mortgage credit report, I can look at that front page. It'll have 12 codes on it, 1 through 40. I can look at those codes and tell you what the credit score is within 20 to 30 points and never look at the credit score just based on the codes. And when I meet with a mortgage company, I blow their mind. I'll say, I want a front page of a mortgage credit report, black out the scores, and I'll bet you I'm within 25 points what the score is without ever looking at the credit report. And if I'm accurate, I want you to listen to me on my presentation on how I can fix your turn downs and put them in a mortgage ready position. They're always like, I'll take on that bet. And 15 seconds later, I blow their minds because I'm usually within 10 to 15 points.
That's
just
awesome.
on those codes. Okay. So back to the predicting the future. If you're not driving, write this down. Your FICO credit score is 300 to 850. And I'll get back to utilization rate here in a second. Your FICO credit score is 300 to 850. What does that mean? A 300 credit score. So if you go in to apply for a credit card at Bank of America, what does that mean? You got a 300. What does that mean to the bank?
Mm-hmm.
What's it mean?
You don't know how to handle money at all.
Exactly.
No. What if you have an 850 credit score?
That means take as much of our money as you want because we know you're going to give it back.
Yeah. Surprisingly, if you're over 800, you'll get denied as many times as you will as a 650 because banks don't want to loan to someone with 800 because they never pay interest.
That's true.
Like
So they actually deny you, and you'll actually see it on their credit score too high as the denial reason. Usually they'll come up with some bullshit reason like too many inquiries. You have one inquiry, which was their bank, and they'll say, too many inquiries. It's because they don't want to loan to you because you're not going to pay them interest. Credit cards.
They would just be upfront and telling me that my credit's too good for them. Like, that'd make me feel a lot better, you know?
Capital One is one of those companies that does that. If you're over 800, they don't want to issue because they know you're never going to pay interest. So anyway, back to the 300, 850. Here's what this means. If you wrote this down, write down 300 to 850. I want you to put a zero between the two zeros, or a period rather. Put a period between the two zeros on 300. And then write percentage sign behind the last zero. Then on the 850, put a period between the 5 and the 0 and a percentage sign. So it should read 30 to 85%.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a 300 credit score means. There's a 30% likelihood you will pay your bills on time over the next 2 years.
Interesting.
If you have an 850 credit score, there's an 85% chance you will pay your bills. So now people are like, well, why did I get turned down? I got a 700 credit score. Credit scores never, I repeat, credit scores never get you approved for a loan, ever. They only get you denied.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have an 850 credit score and no job, no income, you can't get a mortgage because you have no ability to pay back. Doesn't matter what your credit score is. Where if you have a 620 credit score, a 580, and you make $1 million a year and you want to buy a $200,000 home, the bank will throw money at you. They don't care about your 580 credit score.
Mm-hmm.
Credit scores only get you denied. They never get you approved. So now when you look at that and you're like, why did the bank, I got a 620. Why did they not give me this money? I'm good for it. Well, I come in, I got a 740. That's a 620, which is 62% versus 740, 74%. Is that 12% difference?
Yeah.
It's actually more than that. It's 12%, but it ends up being about 25% more likelihood of me paying my bills on time. And so the bank's like, well, you make the same money. I want the 74% chance, not the 62. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really, it's a 50%. No, it's a, it don't matter. Regardless, whatever it is, there's a higher likelihood I'm going to pay my bills if I'm a 740 than a 600. Okay. So that's how they look at you. So back to the utilization rate.
Mm-hmm.
What FICO's looking at is they want to see your utilization rate below 10%. So if you have $1,000 credit card, they want to see it at $100 or less used a month. This is why credit cards and high credit limits are so important. And it's really unfair that people don't know this, because they're like, well, I got a $2,000 credit card. I want the points. And so I'm maxing it out every month. And because they're maxing it out, they lose 100 points. And because they lost 100 points, they can't get a credit line increase. And because they can't get a credit line increase, they're stuck in the low 600s. If they would simply pay that credit card off, wait 2 months, their score will go up 100 plus points, then apply for a credit line increase, and they'll most likely get that credit line increase.
Interesting.
Okay. Credit utilization rate is extremely important. So credit cards are about 80% of your credit score in general. Utilization rate is 40% of your credit score. Late payments is only 35% of your score. So how much money you have on your credit card is a bigger impact to your credit score than if you pay your bills on time.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
By 5%, you said?
Yeah. 35% is whether you pay on time. 40% is whether or not you have above 10% on your credit cards.
Interesting.
Here's where it gets really crazy. So we have the FICO model. Inside the model, there's over 4,200 different versions of scorecards. And there's over 10 FICO models. So there's literally 42,000 different versions of a FICO credit score. And then when you go out online and there's a Vantage and a Trans Risk, and they have 42,000 different versions, it's no wonder people are confused about what their credit score really is. And that's why one website has it at 850 and the other one's got it at 480. It's not really that far of extreme, but you see my point.
Sure.
They're all different. This is why it's so confusing for people. When you have maxed out credit cards and you have one late payment, you go into a different scorecard. Now, what's a scorecard? FICO, again, is 98% effective with predicting the future on whether or not you're going to pay your bills on time. They make billions of dollars because they predict this so accurately. They know that everybody's different. So they have the FICO 10 model, and then they got 4,200 scorecards underneath it. A scorecard is a bucket, if you will. So remember I said the average credit, the FICO credit score is 300 to 850. If you have a maxed out credit card, your scorecard is going to be 300 to 800. You just lost 50 points because you're in this high risk scorecard.
Got it.
Because if you go over 10%, there's a higher likelihood you're going to miss your payments in the future. Therefore, they automatically take 50 points away from you and put you in a different bucket or scorecard. And then they take the 150 points away from you because you have maxed out credit cards. Now you're 650. Okay. And nothing you can do except for paying off that credit card will get you out of that bucket and back into the 300 to 850 bucket. Now you add a late payment to it. It puts you into a different bucket. And now that bucket says the most your credit score can ever be is a 750. And there's nothing you can do to get out of that bucket except for get that late payment removed. And then you got a collection. Now you're in a different bucket. And now the highest credit score you will ever have is a 680. And you got to get out of that bucket to get back up to 850. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. I wanted to ask while we're on the subject, what's your opinion on these like debt consolidation companies out there? Where you
most of them are bad. Most are bad because here's the facts. Like this girl I was talking to on Instagram this morning, she's got $70,000 of credit card debt. She goes to debt settlement. They're going to settle it for 50 cents on the dollar. So she'll end up paying them $35,000 to the credit card companies, probably another $5,000 to the settlement company. So she's out 40 grand. Then she's going to get a tax bill on the 35,000 because settlements are taxable. The IRS views it as income. Now she's going to have to pay tax on that 35,000, which could put her in a higher bracket. And so it could be another 17,000. So now she's already paid 40 plus she has to pay taxes. Now she's paying $57,000 on a $70,000 debt. And she has destroyed credit for the next 7 years. Where she could have just called the credit card company and said, can you just eliminate the interest? They'll do that. They'll drop the interest to zero and she makes the payments, never misses it. She has great credit and she saves the interest. Yeah, she pays 70,000, but she saved the interest and she saved her credit.
Really? The credit card company's that forgiving to just cut the interest
all the time? All the time. Here's the crazy part. People don't know this. These not-for-profit credit card consolidation companies, guess who owns them?
I don't know. The credit card companies?
The credit card companies.
Jesus.
Why would a credit card company own a credit card consolidation company and spend tens of millions of dollars advertising to their credit card clients? To keep them from filing bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Because if they file bankruptcy for $1,500, they wipe out 70 grand. Credit card company gets zero. Here's the other thing. Credit card companies have default insurance on the credit card balance. So if you default on $10,000 credit card, guess how much they lose? Nothing.
Zero.
They lose their deductible.
Wow.
And did they really give you $10,000? No. Because a fractional reserve banking says for every $1,000 that you have in your savings account at Bank of America can loan out $10,000 of Federal Reserve money,
right,
and charge you 29% interest off of your $1,000 savings account. Jeez. And so while they're paying you $1 per year for your $1,000, they're making $2,998 off your $1,000 savings, which is why I tell people don't have a lot of money in the savings account. Now it gets really interesting. If it's a small regional bank like Mountain West, they can loan out 60 times. So you put $1,000 in your savings account, Mountain West, which is here in Idaho, can give you in California a $60,000 credit card at 30% interest and make $18,000 freaking dollars a year on my $1,000 deposit at Mountain West. Do you think the banks have figured out how money works?
Yeah. And gosh, when you're playing by those rules, I mean, I guess like you can't blame them for taking advantage of those rules because, you know, the house always wins, right?
Here's the thing. You said rules. Here's how most people, because I want to transition a little bit into taxes. I could go on literally for hours on credit. I speak on stages all over the world on money, credit, and taxes. So This is my passion. If you can't figure that out. Yeah.
We're on your time here.
Most people don't understand the rules of money. Most people do not understand the rules of finance. They don't understand the rules of taxes. I don't know how many CPAs have told me, well, you can't deduct that. Yeah, you can. You know, I have a Ferrari. I deduct it. My motorcycle, my airplane, my Jeep I just bought. Everything I own, if it makes me money for my company and almost everything I own makes me money, I can legally deduct it. My friend Jordan Belfort, you guys know who the Wolf of Wall Street is?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know he used to write off $200,000 of hookers and blow every single month?
My number's not quite that high, but I respect it.
You can write it off because he was using the hookers to bring in more stockbrokers, which made the company more money. I'm not saying ethically it's the right thing. I'm just proving a point. You can write off anything, even if it's illegal, you can write it off. Okay.
Love it.
Most people address money, credit, and taxes, and they don't even know the rules. They don't even know what freaking game they're playing. Mm-hmm. It's like going up, playing baseball, going up to home plate. They throw you the ball. They lob it into you. You hit a home run. and you're lazy, so you want to run to third base, save some time, and then run back to home plate. How ridiculous would that be? You're watching a guy, he's like, I'm not going to run all the way around. I'm going to run third base and back. Right? It's ridiculous. That's how people treat money. That's how they treat taxes. They don't even know a game. They don't know the rules of the game.
Right.
And it's not their CPA's responsibility to teach you the rules of the game. It is your responsibility. You are responsible for your money. And nobody, regardless of what they tell you, nobody cares more about your money than you. And your CPA that's telling you max out your 401k so you have more money and you're in a lower tax bracket when you're 65 than you are now is full of shit. Because you don't want to be in a lower tax bracket when you're freaking 70 years old.
Let's transition here. I think this would be a good segue into talking about retirement strategy, because you just brought up 401ks, and I know that's another avenue you're involved with as well.
Yeah, so you don't want to be in a lower tax bracket at age 70. You want to be in a higher tax bracket. And I ask people this every day. Do you think taxes are stay the same, go down, or go up in the future? What do you guys think? Dustin, you're being quiet. What do you think?
Election withheld, yeah, probably going to go up.
Regardless of election, has taxes gone up since 1913 when they're created?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it used to be when they created a 401k, it used to be this, that you would be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. Here's what the politicians have not told people and what people do not realize. Yes, theoretically, your tax bracket should be lower. But what the government's doing is they're lowering the income every year and raising the tax bracket. So in 1976, you had to make $300,000 a year to be in a 25% tax bracket. Today, you need to make about $40,000 a year to be in a 25% tax bracket.
Wow.
So they've lowered the income portion of it and increased the taxes on the other side of it. Look at California. Good old Newsom.
Oh, yeah, Mussolini.
17.4% taxes for any family that makes over 300 grand. That's minimum wage in San Francisco. I don't know. Can you even survive off of 300 grand? A family of 4 in San Francisco, 25,000 gross, taking home 15 grand. Could you survive?
Did you say 300 or 30?
300, but you're only taking home 15,000, and you got family of 4 living in downtown San Francisco.
I mean, you can make it. It wouldn't be you probably wouldn't have a plane and a Ferrari and a Jeep.
But would you consider yourself wealthy in San Francisco?
No.
Netting 15,000? No. Newsom thinks you're rich though, and he wants to take from the wealthy.
Yeah. So
he already signed that in, 17.4%. Welcome to California. So anyway,
I get it, guys.
Taxes, I love taxes. I love the tax code. I don't necessarily want to change the tax code. I personally haven't paid personal income tax in over a decade.
Nice.
I pay lots of real estate tax, business tax, FICA tax, unemployment tax, sales tax. I pay a lot of taxes. I just don't personally pay income tax because I know how the game's played, and I hire professionals that know how the game's played.
So I know the average person, let's talk about retirement here and tax strategies in retirement, because most people are just blindly contributing to a 401k, really with no knowledge of what's going on beyond that. So can you help educate the average everyday person listening to this who thinks that's the way you retire, is just contribute to a 401k and hopefully one day retire with enough money and with your fingers crossed? Help them evolve that mindset?
Yeah, the 401k is a disaster. It's really good for the government, and it's really good for Wall Street. It's not good for the American people. Unless your employer is contributing and matching 100% of what you put in, I would never participate in a 401k. I don't have a 401k. Here's why. Hidden fees and expenses. Legally, they don't have to tell you how much they're taking out in fees and expenses every year. I sit down with people every day and say, how much are you putting into your 401k? They'll tell me $500 a month. Cool. How much is that costing you? And they'll be like, well, I'm putting $500 a month into it. No, how much is it costing you to put the $500 in? And they're like, nothing. Actually, it does. It's about 9.5%.
Yeesh.
So every $500 you put in is costing you about $5 in fees. 401k is like a gym membership. It costs you money to get started, it costs you money to stay in, and it costs you money to take it out. After you pay the 9.5% to get in, and they take 5% out, you gotta have a 10% return that year to break even. If you have a down year, your 401k balance is going down because of the fees and expenses. From that point forward, they can now charge 1 to 2% in expenses. For example, you got your 401k with Fidelity and you got $100,000 into it because you worked your ass off, 100 grand sitting in there. They can take 1% to 2% out every single year of your money, of your principal, which now will not compound because they took it out of your account to go pay for marketing for their firm. 2% a year of your money to pay for their marketing every single year. They can do this. Now, they also can charge you for caviar. They decide, you know what? Let's go to Cabo. Let's rent a jet, get some hookers, get some blow, get some caviar, some champagne. Let's fly from San Francisco down to Cabo, rent a big house on the beach. They legally can charge you for that expense and never tell you about it. Wow. Does that sound like a good plan for the average American? This is why they love 401ks. The banks, I call them banksters in Wall Street. They love 401ks. Now, let's talk about the IRS. When you start a 401k, you just married the IRS with no prenup.
Damn.
They get up to 50% of everything you make, and they do nothing for it. Mm-hmm. People talk about, Jeff Bezos's wife, she got billions of dollars. What did she do for it? Look, you know what she did for it? She supported his dream, supported him, helped him build that empire. Yep. He earned that money. What's the IRS do to earn my 50% if I had a 401k? Absolutely nothing. They can tell me when I can get it, but they can get it anytime they want. If I want access to it, they charge me for it, and they charge me a 10% penalty. They tell me how much I can put in. And then when it grows, they take half of it. And now with the Secure Act that was passed by Congress in early 2020, they can take you and fine you. You ready for it? 90% of the value of your 401k and all of your assets if you do not do what they tell you to do with the money.
Jesus.
90%. So here it is. You work your ass off. You got $1 million in your 401k. You die. Your family gets that million. The government says, hold on. If you don't do this right here, we're taking 900,000 and you can keep 100,000. Oh, and by the way, you got to pay tax on that 100 grand. So you're going to get about 50 grand of the $1 million if you do not do exactly what the IRS tells you have to do. How good of a plan is that?
Great if you're the IRS.
Yeah. So do you think I like 401ks?
Dustin, you want to take this one?
Nothing much.
Yeah. I actually love 401ks. You know why? Because they're so bad. It's easy for me to show someone. I showed a 27-year-old kid last night, him and his wife. I say kid because I'm almost 50. He had $100,000 in each of their 401ks. So we got 200 grand. I showed him all the fees, how expensive it was, what the IRS was going to do to him. And then I was like, or we can simply take it from the 401k and put it over here. And we divorce the IRS. We give them their settlement. And because taxes are the lowest they've ever been in decades right now, you give them a little piece, a little settlement. You put it over this in this other account. It now grows 100% tax free. Mm-hmm. And you divorce the IRS and they're gone. They're out of your picture. And you know why divorces are expensive? Because it's worth it.
Nugget. There's our soundbite from the episode, man. Love it. Hell yeah, brother. I mean, look, I know we're coming up on time here. We just got to the tip of the iceberg when it comes to finance. There's man, we'll definitely have to make this a 2, 3, 4-parter if you're open to that. And of course, you could always just listen to his podcast where he talks about this literally every single episode. But Rondi, maybe we can start bringing it home now. We like to close off with just a few rapid fire questions and then our signature questions. So, Dustin, man, that's all you, brother. That's your lane.
Hey, brother. Hey, Ronnie. So I'd like to dive back into taxes and how you've leveraged, let's say, all of your toys, your car, your plane, your homes, not paying income taxes. I know you've spoken on this in your stories and your social media quite a bit on like traveling and things you can write off. How can someone that's leveraging like a home-based business, some tactics and some immediate things they could do to start writing things off and chip away at what they're paying the IRS or taxes?
Yeah. So if you have a home-based business, the IRS allows you to deduct a percentage of how much that house costs you, whether it's electricity, internet, toilet paper, water, garbage, sewer, anything that is spent on that house, including rent and renter's insurance, lawn maintenance, anything that is spent on that house. So let's just, I'll make up a number, $3,000 a month for everything with your house. The IRS then will take the square footage of the house. For sake of ease, $3,000 a month is spent on everything. It's a 3,000 square foot house, which means each square foot in that house is worth $10. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
And now you have a 100 square foot office for your home-based business. 100 square foot times $10 is $1,000. You now get the write-off $1,000. Right? I did the math wrong on that, but the point is you figure out the dollar amount for square footage and you figure out how much you spend, and then you calculate how much of your house. So my house, for example, is 2,300 square feet. I'm sorry, 2,800 square feet. It cost me 2,300 a month. 2,800 square foot house. About 1,500 square feet of my house is used for my office. I have 5 different companies and 4 different offices. Why do I do that? Because when I'm in this office, I'm working on Fortress Credit. When I'm in this office, I'm working on Fortress Financial. This office is all about real estate, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about 50%. So if I'm spending $3,000 a month, including rent, but 50% of the house is used, including my garage, which stores the Ferrari and the Jeep, which I write that off, I get a $1,500 deduction every single month, or $18,000 a year for my home-based business.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Okay. Because I'm using it for my home office. Now, if you get audited, here's the thing, they'll come into your house. They're like, okay, show us this 1,500 square foot. So you better have it set up the right way. And what I recommend is you get a blueprint of your house and you literally highlight the areas. And let's say you just have one little office, one little bedroom. You actually get the write-off 3 feet wide from the front door to the bedroom, that your home office, plus the bedroom to the bathroom. In that hallway, you get to write that off too, because businesses are required to have bathrooms in their businesses. And so you get to write off that square footage. So like with me, 2 of my offices are upstairs. So from the front door all the way up the stairs into both offices, downstairs to the bathroom. And then from the top office downstairs, down the hall, out to the garage. See how that works? And so you literally write it down, you calculate the square footage, and then you write off the percentage of that on your taxes. And then you can write off your cell phone if you have a home-based phone line. So I have a phone line. It's $10 a month. I don't even know what the phone number is. I don't have a phone hooked up to it. Why do I have a home base? Because in order for me to write off my $400 a month cell phone bill, I have to have a home phone. I understand the rules. So I pay $10 a month to the internet company for a phone number. I don't even know what it is. Then you can write off, you go out to dinner. If you talk about business and you're with a client, or you talk about business with your business partner, you write on the receipt, had dinner with Dustin. We talked about 401k conversion plans, and we talked about business credit. And you take that, you take a picture of it so it's stored electronically. That's now deductible at 50%. If you're traveling, it's 100% deductible.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cars, and then I could go on for hours on this. One of the other things, employ your kids. Your kids can make $13,000 a year and never pay a dime in tax. 13 grand a year tax free. So when I have 3 kids, they're all adults now. If I had kids now and I had 3 of them, I could write off in my business $39,000 a year and not pay taxes on it.
Dustin,
And if you listen to my pod, what's that?
I said, Dustin, did Keisha just get her first job?
Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
She's 3 months.
Yeah, that's not going to work. They got to be about 6 years old.
Not yet.
My grandson's on salary, $500 a month. He just turned 9. That's $6,000 a year I pull out of my business. Now he has a real job. He has to go into the office every day, empty the trash. He has to take all the letters from the credit bureaus, run them through the shredder, take the trash out to the dumpster. He has to wipe down the desks after everybody leaves from work. So he has a real job. It's a janitorial company. And so that's what I pay him for, right? If I didn't pay him to do that, I would have to pay someone else. And it'd be a lot more than $500 a month to have daily cleaning. So that's just another example. I can go on for hours with that, but I think that answers your question.
Yeah.
At least I hope it does.
Let's I'm intrigued on how you're writing off a Ferrari. I'd
Sure.
like to dive into that just a second.
Anything that you do that makes money for the company can be wrote off. Anything. Now, there are restrictions to how much you can write off. But if you understand the rules, you can understand how to abide by those restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's really simple. On my Ferrari, there is a website. It is a specific website, divorceyourdebt.com. I own a debt settlement, a debt reduction company. It's not debt settlement, it's debt reduction. So it avoids the taxes side of it. Divorceyourdebt.com. It makes about $500,000 net every year. So about $1 million gross. 100% of those clients come from divorceyourdebt.com. 100% of them saw my Ferrari, divorceyourdebt.com on it. They go to the website, learn about me. I made $1 million gross. I pay taxes on $500,000. 30% tax bracket. The IRS gets 150 grand a year in taxes based on that Ferrari website. Do you think if I get audited, they're going to fight me on that 150 grand of income they're getting because I got the Ferrari and I'm writing off 36,000 a year?
Not at all.
Not at all. Because my answer is like, fine, I'll get rid of the Ferrari. I'll shut down the business. You guys just lost $150,000 of revenue every year.
Gangster.
I'll get rid of it. Right. And so if you're making money, you can write it off, and you can do it with your cars. You know, when I was in real estate, my entire truck was wrapped. I had my name on it, my picture, my signs, my website, the whole freaking thing was wrapped. My Jeep, I just bought a Jeep last week. It was $80,000 because I did $25,000 of additions to it and accessories. Some of those accessories is my logo and my website and my branding. So it is my Jeep for another one of my businesses. And so I customized it. So if anyone sees that Jeep and they go to that website, I'm keeping track of it. And this is the key, keeping track of it. You don't put, like, I don't have on my Jeep, rondilambeth.com. I have a specific website so I can track it. So if I get audited, I can pull it up in Infusionsoft and say, I brought in $5 million from that website off of that Jeep. And the only time they see that is on that Jeep. That's how you write off vehicles.
So going about that, do you lease? Do you finance? Do you purchase outright? What do you?
Leasing is the most expensive way to buy a car. I do not lease. And the reason I do not lease is I do not buy vehicles. I do not drive vehicles that are good to lease. You know, Ferraris, that's a horrible idea to lease it. I know a guy, I'm not going to say his name. He's paying about $12,000 a month in leases. My Ferrari payment's $1,100 a month. The same car. He's paying $4,000. I'm paying $1,100. I'm writing off 100% of it. He's writing off on a lease. Here's where they get you. you can only write off $18,000 a year on a lease. So
Really?
I sat down with him. I'm like, dude, you can't write off $12,000 a month in a lease, $144,000. He's like, yeah, I can. My CPA says I can. I said, show me your tax return. I will show you what your CPA is doing. Yes, you can write it off, but anything over $18,000 per vehicle, they add it back in as income, and you still pay tax on it.
No shit.
Yeah. So I don't do leases. I purchase. So I buy 6,000-pound vehicles, like my truck, $85,000. I use my credit card. I put down $1,000 deposit. I bought the truck. It was $85,000 with sales tax. The next day, I got an $85,000 write-off. How much money had I taken out of my pocket at that point? Zero.
$1,000.
No, I used a credit card.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't put no money out of my pocket, and I got an $85,000 write-off the next day. So I can't do that with a lease.
Interesting.
So I don't lease. And I don't think you should lease if you have debt. I don't think you should anytime lease. You need to be driving a used car until that debt's taken care of.
Yeah.
Love it. Fucking love it. Man, okay, cool. So we are at the tail end here. So we'll go ahead and just bring this one home, man. We have one signature question that we like to end every episode with. And then, of course, we will remind everybody where they can follow your journey. But Rondi, again, man, thank you so much for being on the show. Being that this is the Dedication to Excellence podcast, we do like to end every episode by asking, in your own words, what does it mean to live a life in dedication to excellence?
Live your life as if it's your last day. You need to do something every single day to where tomorrow, if you wake up, you're different than the person you were the day before. You should never be the same person.
Beautiful. We will leave it right there. Rondi Lambeth, thank you so much again, brother. And where can people follow you? Because like I said, we just hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes to everything we discussed today. I mean, understanding wealth, finance, money is a lifelong process. So where can people follow your journey and continue to learn from everything you're putting out into the world?
Yeah, I appreciate that. At Rondi Lambeth. I'm the only Rondi Lambeth in the world. So it's really easy to find me on Google. So you just type in Rondi. As soon as you just type in Rondi, you're going to find me. Instagram, Rondi, you find me. Rondi Lambeth. So everything is at Rondi Lambeth. RondiLambeth.com. Facebook's Rondi Lambeth. Everything's Rondi Lambeth.
Hell
Real
yeah,
simple.
people. So give him a follow. Get your money rights. Money is very important. Don't let the masses fool you. It is right up there with oxygen, and we as discussed earlier. So on behalf of the Dedication to Excellence podcast, I am your host, Eugene Tamampos, with my co-host, Dustin Rainey here. We appreciate the love and support that everyone's been giving us. Please, if you like what you're hearing, leave us a review, tell a friend. And we also have a YouTube channel that most people don't know about. So, hey, watch the videos too. We're not just voices. We actually have faces. And they're not too bad looking, if I must say so myself. So until next time, everybody, appreciate y'all. Love you. Stay blessed. We'll holler at you on the next one. Peace.